So in this segment, we're going to be discussing more of kind of America and the US completely face-planting on Israel's actions in Gaza, and them talking about the fact that they keep dodging around the fact that, well, Israel haven't. They keep saying Israel hasn't committed any crimes, any war crimes, but then when they're being taken to court over potential war crimes, they're against court action. How does that make sense? The only way to confirm that any crimes have been committed is to go to court. So yeah, Blinken. I do blame Blinken because he's a bit of a stooge. It's a lot of a stooge, but at the same time, he works on behalf of Joe Biden, really, and so these are the talking points that the Biden administration are giving him, even though he's part of that same administration. So it's hard to know what he genuinely believes. Maybe I reckon he'll write a book on it at some point. But him and David Cameron are just absolutely having a torrid time. So this is what Blinken was saying about the South Africa case.
This immense human toll is one of the many reasons that we continue to stand with Israel in ensuring that October 7th can never happen again. It's also why we're intensely focused on bringing the remaining hostages home, addressing the humanitarian crisis, and strengthening protection for civilians in Gaza.
Blinken, a guy who keeps talking about how he can relate to some of these families that have lost everything because he also has a family, is deeply, deeply shameful.
And preventing the conflict from spreading. And it's the reason we're working urgently to forge a path toward lasting peace and security in this region. We believe the submission against Israel to the International Court of Justice distracts the world from all of these important efforts.
It really doesn't, because it's being dealt with in the courts. Like, it's not stopping you from doing anything. It's not stopping Biden from doing anything. The result might change what you guys do, but for now, you're not being asked to testify. I use Joe Biden being asked to testify. Like, how does it distract anyone from anything? You guys haven't done anything, really.
And moreover, the charge of genocide is meritless.
How is it meritless? If Israel has been charged with genocide, the weapons that you have supplied Israel with have contributed to that genocide. What Blinken is saying here is deeply shameful.
It's particularly galling, given that those who are attacking Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, as well as their supporter Iran, continue to openly call for the annihilation of Israel and the mass murder of Jews. Which
they should stop doing. These groups should stop doing that. And they should be condemned for that. But you can't go around saying that Hamas are a terrorist group, which they are, Hezbollah are a terrorist group, which they are, the Iranian government, deeply authoritarian, right? And then say, they're wrong to condemn Israel or whatever. Like, we can condemn both. Like, what Israel have done, according to a lot of people, it tantamount to genocide. And that's the whole point of the court case, is the court is going to look at the merits of the case and decide on it. I don't see what the issue is. The only reason they're saying this is an issue is because of the fact that, Israel is Team West. There were people, I think Starmer and other people, saying they should set up special tribunals to deal with Russia, international courts and things like that. It's like, where did suddenly all that energy go? It doesn't make sense. And that's the thing with geopolitics. It's very team-based. We go to David Cameron here. This is, he's not having a fun time in these select committee hearings.
I just want to say some of the statistics today that I have for the record, where
obviously this would be accurate at the time. These clips aren't that new.
1.9 million people have been displaced. 70% of Gaza's residential buildings have been destroyed. Most schools have been destroyed. Most hospitals have been rendered inoperable.
I think currently at the moment there are no operational hospitals in Gaza. This is a complete humanitarian disaster, with the UN saying it's not just the bullets and the bombs people have to be worried for, it's starvation. Death because of lack of clean water and other things.
And this week, the International Criminal Court will hold public hearings on South Africa's application under obligations relating to the Genocide Convention. Could you give your views on that, the government's views?
Well, first of all, on the South Africa case I think it's the International Court of Justice rather than the International Criminal Court. But I don't think that is helpful. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right.
Surely, if you think Israel are innocent of these crimes, you'd be like, look, they'll go to court, they'll clear their name, and this won't be a problem.
I think we should, bandy around terms like genocide in this case. I don't think that's correct. That doesn't change our long-standing position that ultimately it's courts to decide to define genocide, not for states.
Up to the courts. What do you think where do you think they went? They went to the courts to decide this. They put their case to court. This is genuinely, man, it don't make sense. Like, let's go back.
Decide to define genocide, not for our long-standing position that ultimately it's courts to decide to define.
South Africa didn't say Israel committing a genocide, full stop. They've taken their case to the international courts. That's the whole point of this. Oh, come on, bro. Like, this is our foreign secretary, unelected bureaucrat foreign secretary here. Absolutely no idea what he is talking about. What is blood waffling about? Genuinely.
Define genocide, not for states. But I'm very, very clear about that. In terms of what I said about Gaza, look, it's been unsatisfactory for years.
Which is true. There's something David Cameron even talked about whilst he was PM about settlements, but he did nothing about it. This one is the worst one, I think.
And just Lord Cameron, just to clarify, so you have received no advice at any point from any government lawyer that states that Israel is in breach of international humanitarian law?
That's not what I said.
No, that's why I'm asking you to clarify.
Yes, well, I'm going to give exactly the same answer all over again, which is what my role is, right?
I'm not interested in the role, I'm interested in the legal advice you've received.
Yes, well, the legal advice I've received is consistent with the fact that we have not changed our export.
It's not about arms exports. It's about international humanitarian law being upheld when it comes to aid, when it comes to the way in which airstrikes have been prosecuted, everything else. With one question on arms exports, we've moved from them. In any realm, in any respect. So you've never had a piece of paper put in front of you by a Foreign Office lawyer that says that Israel is in breach.
I wouldn't be surprised if David Cameron never asked the lawyers about this stuff. That way you can never get an answer. Politicians are sneaky like that. I think it was Jack Straw who got one of his aides to read out a specific story or an incident or something like that. And so when he went onto the radio and asked, have you read this report? He would say no. He didn't read it, but he knew what was in it. Politicians are very sneaky like that. And David Cameron kind of ducks this.
Breach of its international humanitarian commitments under international humanitarian law.
Look, the reason for not answering this question, I can't recall every single bit of paper that's been put in front of me.
And that's what I mean, like, easy out. There's a bit more to talk about on this.
I mean, that was excruciating because, good afternoon to you, by the way. It tells us really the very fine tightrope that the UK and other European nations and America is now walking when it comes to Israel and Gaza.
Yes, that's right. And
this is based on what Cameron said to the Select Committee.
It also demonstrated that Lord Cameron, to put it politely, was not entirely on top of his brief.
Yeah.
We might have anticipated he would get that question. And Philip Barton, the Secretary of the Foreign Office, was sitting next to him, and he didn't seem to help him out very much, or Lord Cameron.
If Cameron was sitting next to me, I would not help him out either, so I don't blame the permanent secretary or whoever it was for that.
And turn to him for some help. And it is the case, this is difficult for all the Western powers, but the point is there is a legal justification for Israel both to go after Hamas, perfectly good legal justification, and a legal justification for the civilian casualties that have been occasioned in Gaza. There is a justification, but it has to be upheld, and the Israelis have got to prove it. And what they've got to prove when it comes to civilian casualties is that there is no other way of meeting their military objective, that they've done everything they can to mitigate the threat and the harm to civilians, and this is the important one, that the military objective is sufficiently important to be worth putting civilians at risk. Now, if they can answer those three questions, then they can create a justification.
And that's what I'm saying, go to court, put your case through. If you're that confident that you haven't committed a genocide, go to court, prove it. Put your arguments out. Because when you see footage of a woman being shot by a sniper for going in the wrong direction, I genuinely don't know what the military justification is for that action. There is no justification for that. And that's just one of the actions that we've seen. We've seen the video footage. We've seen the targeting of civilian infrastructure. There is no legal justification for this, and that's the question that Israel. These are the questions Israel needs to answer in court. Is did you act in a way that was militarily justified in terms of minimizing civilian casualties? That's the question. And if Israel can answer that, then fair. But I don't think they can, and that's why justifiably this should go to court.
But they haven't tried. They're not arguing the case very much, and that leaves Britain and America and other countries that instinctively support Israel in responding to this dreadful attack on the 7th of October, as it were, in the dark, because the Israelis simply keep asserting that they're within international law, but they won't actively make the case when it comes to all of the casualties.
I mean that.
Which he's right about 100%. And there is one more video I want to go on to, which is more recent.
Today, I know the White House has previously said that phrase is divisive. So
I'm not aware.
So this is Netanyahu using the phrase "from the river to the sea" regarding about Israel's security.
That specific phrase was discussed.
do you condemn him using that phrase?
Look,
Can the White House get better audio, please?
there's a connotation with that phrase. We've talked about this before, but when when you use the phrase "river to the sea," it speaks basically to the mantra of Hamas and in their manifesto, where they basically describe the geographic bounds of what they believe to be Palestine. And if you look at it on the map, if you go look at the four corners that they describe it.
So here you can kind of see him talk about that statement in the way Hamas use it, but the problem is Netanyahu's using that phrase now.
It's basically the state of Israel. They just don't believe it should exist. So again, it's not a phrase that we recommend using, given because of that context.
But this wasn't Hamas. This was Netanyahu.
I understand. I don't have anything more on that. And
So he's just scared, cowardly, and again, this is a symptom of the Biden administration. That's the reason why he's saying this. Same thing with Cameron, arguably, as well. Being incredibly cowardly with his answers, and then we go on to hear that Netanyahu, who ran his campaign before on there being no Palestinian state, telling Joe Biden that he doesn't believe in the two-state solution. And then, Joe Biden being incredibly shocked and then being condemned by, I think, Keir Starmer and I think, what's his name? Michael Green. That's not his name, but that's his fake name. Grant Shapps, that's it. Saying a similar thing, not condemning him, but saying, we believe in a two-state solution. And that's the best way out of this mess. But you can clearly see the Americans kind of becoming, and the British becoming more and more uncomfortable with Israel's actions, but not doing anything. At the end of the day, if it's decided that Israel have committed genocide, there are British and American weapons that were used to commit that genocide if that's what the courts come out with. Not to mention the surveillance as well. Like, this is not a good situation for anyone involved here. If it's found Israel to be guilty, and I believe that they will be found guilty. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.